There's no doubt about it. Michael Bublé is a proud Canadian. He loves hockey so much he has an ice rink in his basement and can whip up a mean Bloody Caesar, the country's national drink. But the voice coach has also been known to go all out for Ireland's biggest holiday, St. Patrick's Day. Whether he's wearing a glittery green hat and drinking out of a green mug, like he did in 2021, or he's gushing about his Irish fans, or he's sharing a special St. Patrick's Day message, Bublé often commemorates the March 17th holiday. One year, in fact, Bublé surprised one of his fans at her Irish pub to have a pint of Guinness. Michael Bublé shared a pint of Guinness with a fan on St. Patrick's Day. On March 17, 2023, Bublé was in Hamburg, Germany during his Higher tour. A fan of Bublé's, Audrey Leaves, had previously invited him over Twitter to have a pint of beer at her bar, a Fleeting Kika Irish pub, whenever his tour took him to the German city. "Yes, I'd love to come to your Irish pub for a pint of Guinness," the singer responded, and 1 year later, Bublé took Leaves up on the invite. What is more Irish than being in Hamburg, Germany for St. Patrick's Day? Bublé joked in a video posted on TikTok, going on to share the story of how he and Leaves first connected. "It's happening. We're here. She doesn't know I'm coming. I don't even know if she's gonna be there. But hey, what a good excuse to have a drink. Woohoo, let's go." As Bublé walked into the pub, Leaves' eyes widened as she clutched her heart and then covered her mouth in complete shock. "I can't believe this is happening," she said as Bublé gave her a big hug. "We did it, we're here," Bublé, wearing a green baseball hat and sweatshirt, added. Then, as they first discussed over Twitter, Bublé and his fan said, "Cheers," over a pint of Guinness together. A celebration that is unlike any other is that of St. Patrick's Day. As they raise their glasses and put on their most fashionable green apparel, people from all walks of life come together to celebrate the rich cultural legacy of Ireland. It is a day that is packed with the promise of having a good time, as well as laughing and companionship. However, for one fan who was unaware of the impending event, the celebration of St. Patrick's Day this year was about to become much more than a typical celebration. This was the day when Michael Bublé, the ever-charming vocalist, would come into a pub and surprise a fan in the most wonderful way possible. Imagine the scene. Everyone is gathered around tables, enjoying pints of Guinness, and traditional Irish music is playing in the background. The pub is a comfortable and bustling establishment, and it is located somewhere in the middle of a lively metropolis. There is a bustling environment, and the beer is flowing as effortlessly as the laughing that is being shared. A group of friends are chatting passionately in the corner of the room, and the sound of their conversation is occasionally drowned out by the sound of a loud cheer or an impromptu Irish jig. The environment is filled with happiness, and of course, there is always one person who shines out. For this specific fan, it was a St. Patrick's Day that she would never forget. Of course, there is always one person who sticks out. This fan, who we will refer to as Emily, had no idea that her evening would evolve in such a manner that was completely unexpected. While she was enjoying the holiday with her friends, she was also wondering at the excitement that was going on in the room. She was, like the majority of the throng, enjoying the holiday. She was aware of the reports that celebrities might occasionally show up around holidays such as this one, but she never gave it any further thought. At the end of the day, this was nothing more than a typical pub sitting on an amazing day, and she was prepared to take pleasure in it just like everyone else. Never in her wildest dreams did she realize that she was going to go through something that she could never have imagined. When the door to the tavern opened, a figure who appeared to be almost too good to be true strolled in. Michael Bublé, who was dressed in a casual manner yet exuded that undeniable charisma that made him a heartthrob on a global scale, entered the pub in the same manner as any other average guy. However, there was nothing about it that was consistent. It was as though the entire room came to a halt the instant he walked in. As the conversation subsided, everyone's attention was pulled to the one who, for many people, was the voice of romance, smooth jazz, and classics that have stood the test of time. Individuals took a moment to grasp the identity of the person who had just entered the building, and then they began to let out gasps. The crowd gradually became aware that one of the most famous people in the world had just entered their modest little pub, and whispers filled the air as they experienced this realization. Emily was taken aback by the news even more than that. As she turned her head to look behind her, she caught a glimpse of Michael Bublé standing there. He appeared to be smiling in a nonchalant manner and appeared to be preparing to settle down with his buddies for a pint, just like any other regular person. The first thing that came to her mind was to blink, and then she looked about, half expecting this to be some kind of elaborate kind of joke. However, it was not a dream. At that moment, she found herself standing in front of the man whom she had admired for a considerable amount of time, the voice that had accompanied her through numerous playlists and passionate evenings. Whether she should laugh, cry, or pinch herself, she was at a loss for words. In a moment of pure magic, Michael Bublé did something that no one could have anticipated. He stepped right up to Emily and her group of friends. This was a moment that no one could have anticipated. "Would it be okay if I joined you?" he inquired with a grin that had the power to warm even the most icy of hearts. The warmth in his voice and the grin on his face gave the impression that he had known them for a very long time. It is difficult to conceive of how Emily could have been feeling at that very moment. In one moment, she was merely taking pleasure in the festivities around St. Patrick's Day, and in the next, she found herself sitting next to one of the most well-known singers in the world, drinking a drink and exchanging jokes with him. Both a concert and a meet and greet were not included in this event. It was merely an accidental meeting between a famous person and a fan who was completely unaware of the fact that her day was going to take a positive turn for the better. In the beginning, Emily's pals were also in a state of shock, attempting to make sense of the bizarre circumstance in which they found themselves. The mood, on the other hand, changed in a relatively short amount of time. When Michael stood in front of the audience, he was just as engaging and personable as he appeared on stage. Through his humorous antics and inquisitive inquiries concerning the establishment, the city, and of course, the vacation itself, he was able to put everyone at ease. He was a down-to-earth, fun-loving guy who wanted to connect with people, regardless of where they were located, and the more he connected with the group, the more it became evident that Michael Bublé was not just a superstar. Emily and her friends found themselves laughing along with Bublé's anecdotes and stories from his music career. The discussion flowed easily, and Emily and her friends found themselves following along. They were interested about what drew him to the pub on such a joyous day, and his explanation was surprisingly straightforward. He simply desired to experience the same enthusiasm and energy that everyone else was taking pleasure in. Come was no better spot to take in the events of St. Patrick's Day than in a bustling pub surrounded by people who would just come to have a good time. After all, even superstars require some time to relax and unwind a little bit. It was a moment that Emily would never forget taking place in her life. Listening to Michael's music, going to his concerts, and following his career were all things that she had done throughout her childhood. A dream come true for her was the unexpected realization that she was in such close proximity to him, and that they were sharing stories and laughter while drinking a pint of Guinness. She had contemplated meeting him on numerous occasions, but never in this condition. This was not accomplished through a pre-arranged event or a signing of autographs. That wasn't even a pass to the backstage area. It was nothing more than a serendipitous and enchanted meeting on a day when anything may take place. On the other hand, as the evening progressed, another thing became apparent. Michael Bublé, despite the fact that he was a famous musician, was not interested in going through the typical fanfare that comes along with being a famous artist. It was not his intention to cause a commotion or to garner media attention. He was present in order to take pleasure in the company of others who recognized the occasion for what it was, a celebration of life, music, and the joy that was shared by all. Michael eventually had to go because the night was coming to a close, but not before he took a minute to express his gratitude to Emily and her companions for the amazing chat that they had. Before he left, he made sure that the group would have a lasting memory of the event by posing for a picture with them. The event itself was the thing that counted the most, not the photo or the autograph. It was the surprise, the laughter, and the actual connection that existed between an artist and his admirers. The atmosphere in the room was electric with excitement as Michael departed the pub. The experience, which was the surprise of having such a rock star pop in on a random St. Patrick's Day, was the topic of conversation that everyone couldn't stop talking about. For Emily, it was a night that she would remember fondly for the rest of her life, a tale that she would recount for many years to come. Regarding Michael Bublé, he had just demonstrated once more the reasons why his followers like him. It is not just his voice that makes his fans adore him. It is also the friendliness, warmth, and generosity that he demonstrates to everyone around him. It was a St. Patrick's Day that would go down in history, one in which a superstar unexpectedly appeared at a pub, absolutely stunned a fan, and made the evening unforgettable for everyone who had the good fortune to be present.